Okay, let's continue talking about ways to create points. We've talked about picking, we've talked about uh, direct distance entry with polar tracking, we've talked about using object snaps. Now I want to talk about kind of a combination of direct distance entry and object snap tracking. Again, we've got running object snaps set and working for us in the background anytime we're prompted to pick a point. These four are working for us. Um, this button right next door to object snaps is called object snap tracking. And it kind of works like polar tracking in the fact that if I'm prompted to pick a point, let's say for some reason I wanted a line that started half an inch to the left of this endpoint and went to a point that was half an inch to the left of this point. That's where object snap tracking comes into play. If I went here and I went in this direction, okay, and I just typed in 0.5, I'm tracking off of that endpoint towards my crosshairs, and because that green line shows up, I know I'm locked in perfectly horizontally, and if I type in 0.5 and hit enter, that's where I'm at. Okay. Now, if I go here and kind of come this way, now I really can't do this, what I was trying to do, because if I type in 0.5 now, it's going to be entered for the length of the line. So I might have to do a little planning ahead. What I can kind of do, let me see this. I'm winging it right now. I didn't practice this part. So I think what I can do is create what we call a temporary tracking point right off of that endpoint and then say 0.5 to there. So what I'm going to do is do a shift right click, and instead of using these different object snaps, I'm going to use a tricky one here, and we're going to use actually I'm going to use from. Okay, from lets me pick a point. I'll pick that endpoint, and then I can go from that endpoint 0.5 in that left direction, like polar tracking shows it, along that green line. And there I have a line that starts 0.5 away from here, and a line that, or an endpoint that starts, or that is 0.5 away from this endpoint. I wasn't planning on showing you that from object snap. I knew something was going to go wrong because I remembered right while I was starting to demonstrate it that I'm not going to be able to just simply use polar track or object snap tracking to get to this point. But realize that that from tool is there. Another item that's in there that we can use is this midway between 2 points. I have mid, which lets me snap to the midpoint of a line. If I grab my line command and kind of get here, I get that triangle for the midpoint of a line, but sometimes I want to get halfway between 2 points that isn't spanned by a line. Maybe I want to stop or create a line that is halfway between the two endpoints of that arc. To get that, I do a shift right click, and I can use this mid between 2 points tool. And then I pick a endpoint and the other endpoint, and it gets me to that spot halfway in between two. And I'll just pick any old spot. I don't really care where this one is. But that's object snap tracking. If I draw a line and I just hover over that endpoint, and you can kind of see that it leaves a green tick, I've acquired that by just hovering there. And now when I get lined up horizontally or vertically, I can move horizontally or vertically, or create a point horizontally or vertically off of that endpoint object snap. Okay, I'll go 0.5 in this direction. We'll just stick with that 0.5 tool. And then again, I'm just going to, who cares with the other endpoint. But that distance between there to there is 0.5. What's the next thing I would like to talk about? I don't want to make too short of a video. Yeah, that's object snap tracking. Let's talk about, let's say, did this work right? Did I get that 0.5 distance between these 2 points and these 2 points? This tool right up here lets us measure. Now, quick is a newer feature, and it just is way confusing. So I'm going to pull this down and just say, you know what? I don't want to do a quick thing and let AutoCAD kind of figure out what I meant. I'm going to say I want to know the distance between 2 points. And I pick 2 points, and it tells me the distance between them. It kind of shows it to me there. It shows it to me here. It also shows it to me at the command prompt in case I have dynamic input turned off. But you can see that we can check that. Now, the command is giving us some other options. I don't want to talk about these things, but if I wanted to say, okay, great, that one worked, but now did this one work? Because to be honest, this looks kind of big to me. But did it work? So I'll just grab distance again and pick, and nope, it worked right. So we got away with that on-the-fly demo of the from object snap. And everything's cool. And now that's the only 2 distances I wanted to check. So I will now just say exit, and that'll get me out of there. So that's another method of creating points, what are called object snap tracking. Okay, and then I gave you a couple of other tools: the from object snap, the mid between 2 points object snap, and I showed you how to use the distance measuring tool. All right.